Good morning and welcome to OSW Daily. August, Mike. It is now August. How are you doing, man? How are you doing?
I am
August, can
well.
you
How
believe
are
it?
you, Steve?
I'm doing well, mate. Can you
August
believe it's
3rd.
August, man? We started this back
Summertime,
sometime in
summertime,
March.
summertime.
Sorry, mate. I
Oh,
interrupted your little karaoke session there. I
I just was in
apologize.
it is the heat of the summer, and
It is.
it is the time that we typically think about beaches and sunshine and being outside
It's
and
exactly where I
travel and
am, man.
vacation. Is that what you're thinking about?
It certainly
Thinking
am,
about
and
beaches?
I'm certainly thinking about beaches. I'm thinking about the sun. I'm thinking about relaxation as I head into my last week before vacation.
Oh,
And you
good,
and
good.
you may hear me talk about that each day this week, Mike. That's how excited that I am.
I
Not
hope
not
so.
not that I plan to go and sit on the beach or anything like that, but it just gives me the feeling of that relaxation and recovery.
Well, please tell me you're not going to keep doing videos while you're on vacation
No,
next
no,
week.
no, no. Everything will be
I
shut
mean,
down.
you need a break,
Oh,
Steve. I
thank
need you
you,
to get
Mike.
refreshed.
I appreciate your advice. I appreciate your guidance, and on that, I think I will. I will take notice of that, and yeah, I think I will. I think I will
Shut it down.
shut
No more
everything
tweet. I
down,
don't want
man.
to see tweets. I don't want to see LinkedIn
You won't
posts.
say anything, I promise you.
Ah, good, good.
You may see the odd moment where I just sort of, something falls apart and I hit a like or something, but other than that, no,
That's
no.
okay. All right,
This
I'll
this
forgive you
is,
as long as you're liking my content. If
of
you're liking one
course,
of
of
my
course,
podcasts or
yeah.
one of my videos, I'm
And
okay
and
with it.
and you know me, Mike. I'm a big supporter of people I like. That's not to say I'm not a big supporter of people I don't like. I'm just saying I'm very much in the favor of those
I
that
thought
I
you were going
do
to say
like.
I'm a big supporter of people I like, and your stuff's okay too.
That'd have been funnier actually. Yeah,
And
and that's
sometimes I like your stuff too.
see that's such a thing that I would typically say, and that shows
Yeah.
me that I need a vacation because I'm just not with that.
You're a little slow on the draw today,
A little
Steve. Come
slow, a
on,
little
let's
slow.
go. It's a
So anyway,
Monday. That's
folks.
two.
So folks,
I give
Monday,
you I give you a
Monday.
break. It's a Monday. I
Thank you, man.
forgive you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So, look, if this is your first time coming across the channel, so what are we? We're Open Source Workplace. This is our daily live stream. Mike Petresky, host of the Workplace Innovator podcast. Steve Todd, founder of Open Source Workplace and global head of workplace at NASDAQ. And we basically here Monday through Thursday, typically most weeks, chatting about what's in the headlines, what relates to workplace, what are the things as an industry we're all talking about. And we like to look at the headlines of the day. We like to look at the stories. We like to have those conversations about those and around those topics. And that's what we're here to do. And if you want to receive information ahead of time, there's a link below that sort of says sign up, and we will then send you the links to the articles that we're going to publish. So even if you miss the live stream, you're able to see what's going on. And then within there, we put in a lot of other information, productivity tips, helps tips to reduce stress, employee engagement statistics, things like that. We give those out every day so that basically it's a little bit of value when you're reading things. So today, Mike, interesting topics, and I kept something
Yeah, good
back, something
good agenda
special.
today.
I liked what we did last time with holding something back.
Oh yeah, you're gonna
And
surprise me
I'm gonna
today. You're gonna
surprise you again,
surprise me
man. I'm
again?
gonna surprise you again.
Okay,
Whether or not it's
I'm
as good,
ready.
we'll see. But so here's what we're going to
3D
talk
printed
about.
salmon is gonna be as tough to top that one, Steve.
I have a story related to that, an update on that, but we'll get to that a little bit later. So this is an interesting one. The in crowd in the office, right? Cliques, an article
Hmm.
about cliques. How to be an empathetic leader. We've talked about empathetic leaders in the past, Mike, but what really drew me to this specific article was the mood indicator and the little triggers and nudges that are good to have in play and in place to help us remind how to behave and how to take stock of ourselves. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And then workplace flexibility. We're in this environment, we don't know how things are going to unfold, and therefore we have to build flexibility into our thinking, our mindsets, our workplaces, our work styles and everything, and we're going to talk about that too. So
Yeah,
digging right in, Mike, digging right
good
in.
stuff.
Here we go. Here we go. So to sort of set some sort of context. This is an article published in Australia, and Australia released their diversity statistics, and they were positive in the movement towards workplaces being diverse. But what was telling from that was the issues around cliques within the workplace, and how although Australia is achieving diverse workplaces, inclusion is becoming an issue and a concern. And we typically think of inclusion as minority groups, but we don't really think about actually the formation within teams of cliques and how new people actually struggle to, I don't want to say penetrate, but get involved and integrate into those teams. And
Yeah.
as we think about life today, Mike, and we think about how people are not going to be together, how new employees are going to be onboarded, what are the lessons that we can take from this type of article to help leaders, help companies, think about that, the greater population, people being onboarded and so on and so forth. And I thought it was a good reminder. And we do know about the statistics of onboarding and how people are actually struggling to be onboarded and get integrated into the team. So I think it's a good topic for you and I to sort of think about and talk about this morning.
Indeed. And I just have to point it out to our audience, and it's something that always makes me smile, is the way you pronounce certain words. I'm sure it's the proper way, being that you're from the UK, Northern Ireland, British pronunciation with a little Irish tinge to it. Cliques. The cliques that we're talking about in offices and in our society. It's as old as time, Steve. I go back as I was reading this article and thinking about my own upbringing, my own childhood. I'm sure it was for you growing up in Belfast. And people are people, right? So things that are universally true continue to be so. And the article was great in pointing out some of the challenges in the workplace of people excluding others or getting together in what we would call in America cliques, but that's my English accent or my American accent. The fact is that I didn't see a lot of solutions offered in this article. I thought it was very well, written and the importance of diversity inclusion, and the vast majority of us are on board with that idea. And then I just wonder some of the practical ways to do it. Certainly, there are two types of kind of problems. There's one driven by, nefarious, negative motives. There are certain people, unfortunately, that have prejudices and so forth. But I want to assume that they're the minority. I think the vast majority of us just have different personality types, different interests, different, things that we like. So therefore, we're drawn to others that we find commonality with. And I guess the challenge here, and I want to see if you have any practical tips, because I didn't see them in the article, as far as in the workplace, if we could build a culture where we're driving towards a commonality around the mission of the organization or bigger picture, why we're all there together. And again, this is hard for me too, Steve. I've never really worked in an office, or haven't. It's been a long time since I've worked in an office setting, being a lifelong remote worker. I have to go back to my early career as a salesperson in a printing company, and we had an office of maybe 25 people. And sure, we went to lunch. The sales reps who were, had a lot in common, would go to lunch and talk about sports and whatever was going on. And there were other groups that would go off, and everybody had their clique, I guess you'd say. And there was some, even back then, I'm dating myself, but a long time ago, we recognized it as a problem, and we would go out of our way to try to include others and have, times for group activities with the broader, we're all on employees with the same company mindset. But, do you ever fully eliminate the fact that human beings do find common interests with others and want to hang out with others? And if we want to really integrate our lives, especially now in the world of everyone being isolated and trying to find ways to be together, it's something where it's going to be difficult to balance those things. But if you have ideas, I'd love to hear them, because it's something the article didn't really offer up.
No, you're right, and it's kind of funny. I'm smiling at your question to me, because I was going to come at a question like that to you, because you're a remote worker. You've been on board recently, at iOffice, and yes, you know the leadership team there. But as you think about how that was going to come, in today's environment, I was going to ask you that. So that's kind of funny that you spun it around, and I'm happy to give an opinion and sort of a viewpoint. My big thing is always trying to engage the team, the wider team, in any project that you're working on, to involve people, let them feel that they're contributing, let them feel that they're learning by actually being involved in a process. So even if they don't really fully understand something initially, it's having people with those different aspects who ask different questions. And some people may feel they're stupid questions, but actually it broadens the group's mind So I like to include people and as many people as I can in projects that I'm working on. And with that, then and you encourage folks to speak up and encourage people to ask questions that are different, that are of a different mindset. Because in essence, that's why we want to create these diverse teams and diverse organizations, because it's the whole that is much bigger than the individual. And therefore, if you bring all these diverse people mindsets together, then that's what benefits. But I think it's really important to be reminded that actually inclusion is much more than just race, gender, sexual orientation, and be whatever else we actually think about, inclusion. Inclusion can mean just anything, and it can be a new starter, it can be someone who is at a different age to the group, it can be people who have a different mindset or live in a different geography or work in a different time zone. It can be many, many, many things, and that's why I like this, because it just reminded me and triggered that in my head.
Yeah, and I agree. And the fact that the silver lining here of this pandemic existence and the fact that we now have equal access to each other via Zoom. Now, whether we're using that or not is another question, but I think there's an opportunity, as you say here, to really think about including everyone from diverse positions, backgrounds, departments, bring the team together and do it in a way that's going to help the organization and help everybody individually. Don't leave anybody behind, because we are isolated in our homes, many of us, and it's an opportunity to prevent that from happening. Whereas in the workplace itself, that was the kind of area I wasn't familiar with in recent times anyway, of the dynamics of an office. And I'm assuming that those cliques take place in offices and people hang out with each other and in their social time between projects. But it does take deliberate effort. I think the bottom line is it takes deliberate effort to make sure people are feeling included. And that's the age-old problem going back to the playground in middle school. Yeah. And hopefully, the teachers who I give so much praise to for what they do are helping get out of their comfort zone, get past their uncomfortable nature, which kind of puts them in a position of being exclusive, because excluding others is easier sometimes than reaching out to that person who's different than you. Yeah. And I certainly hope as adults we can learn something from those lessons on the playground when we can see kids playing together when they're different. So that's something that we need to do in the corporate sandbox as well.
Absolutely. And sort of, it nicely dovetails into the second article we want to talk about. And while we're talking about, this article is all around, excuse me, how to be an empathetic leader, there are lessons in here that actually, if you think about what we just talked about, right, leading a team, ensuring that it is a diverse team, but there is inclusion. And what we're going through, there are 5 things here that Vinay actually mentions that actually just could simply be an answer to your question, Mike. So connect informally and frequently, be a supportive leader, build trust and transparency, bring fun into the workplace, right? Because it's people react differently to different situations, right? Different activities, different skill sets. Introverts, extroverts, we all need different ways to showcase or feel alive within a team dynamic, and it's trying to work out how that team operates. And it's almost, we're going to have to go to a almost man management. It's not a team. There's team management, the team dynamic, but in essence, each individual, if you think about sports teams, right, and we think about how they talk about, years gone past, how they managed the team, it was very disciplinary and it's my way or the highway, where today, actually, it's a much more individual, emotional connection with each player individually. You understand, okay, what makes that person tick? Are they the person that actually needs to be shouted at to actually G them up and get performance, or does that detract from their performance? And there's lessons there that I think we need to be bringing into the workplace, that actually, okay, so maybe we need to manage things a little bit differently. Everyone needs to be treated that a little bit differently. And I think there's some lessons here. But what I really loved about this article was the mood elevator. Yes. Where this, Vinay basically just says to himself each day, at each moment, and not each moment, but regularly through the course of the day, what's my mood? How do I feel about my mood? Because that mood alters your opinion of different circumstances, how you interact with other people, and having that trigger, that little nudge to address that, to emotionally connect with yourself, and then make adjustments that you feel are necessary if your mood isn't in that connected or inclusion or whatever other aspect you're looking to strive for at that moment. I thought it was a really, really nice tool.
Yeah, lots of great stuff here, and that mood escalator or indicator or
Elevator.
whatever it was called.
Yeah.
Elevator. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
At the top of the top floor was gratefulness and being in a place where you feel grateful for what you have, and I love that concept. But back to your analogy, the sports analogy. I hadn't thought of it, Steve, but you're right. And empathy, as far as leadership goes, is something we've talked about here often. The idea we, especially in these times, have to really understand and put ourselves in the other person's shoes, understand that we all have different experiences at our home. Some of us are more functional, more relaxed, more able to operate effectively during these times in our comfortable settings. Others don't have it quite as well, but in different personal situations and different vulnerabilities, different feeling of, just so many factors. The individual is what you come down to. And you're right. There was a time when I was growing up where coaches would yell at the team and try to get everybody fired up, and it just didn't work for me. That wasn't certainly the type of leadership that inspired me. And it wasn't until I came across some managers across my early career who just took time to understand where I was coming from, because I'm a little different. I'm certainly someone who's experienced being excluded, as far as believe me, I don't have many examples in front of me, or my Star Wars nerdiness growing up. It's something that I understand that not everybody understood that, and but I would migrate and find people that understood me, and there were people that I could relate to and so forth. But when a leader, whether it's a sports team or in an office setting, looks at everybody, sees their personality type, what interests them, their skills, and this article goes into a lot of those things that you said, that it just builds a better situation and a more cohesive and productive organization. So I love the practical tips of this article compared to the first one were really exceptional.
No, it was, and I just love as well that gratefulness is the top of the elevator, right? In essence, he aspires every day to feel this way, and I think it's great. And it's also, whenever we are like, look at some of the other moods that sort of indicates, right? Defensiveness, insecurity, judgmental, right? These are emotions that really hamper ourselves internally, and what that happens when we've got those mindsets is no matter what somebody says to us, those are how we're going to react to those things. Where if we can alter our own mindsets and alter how we're feeling, then actually the words that we hear, we internalize them differently. So it's almost the self thing that you do for yourself, but actually it helps other people, and it's a great thing.
I wonder, before we move on, if another silver lining here, and I'm trying to find them during this pandemic, but this Zoom existence, this quarantine life, this living the digital workplace experience is something that has accelerated or helped in some ways get people out of their comfort zone, especially those that are more introverted, more shy in office setting. And I don't know if there's any truth to this. I'd love to hear from others out there. If you're someone who was uncomfortable pre-pandemic, turning the camera on or having a video call, or you're one that was more slow to participate in a conference room setting, for example, a big group meeting in person. I wonder if the leveling of the playing field, the fact that these digital interactions have put everybody in the same place, has allowed some of that to go away and freed people up to be better contributors, or just more comfortable contributing, or being made aware of, as far as sometimes you get lost in the shuffle in certain situations. And I'm trying to think of examples, but whether it's a meeting or a conference situation, I know that I've changed, and I was never one to be shy earlier, before the pandemic, but at the same time, this experience has just taken away a lot of the thing that I did overthink about. I think you mentioned a couple things. We overthink, we worry about whether people are going to say if we contribute and it's a bad idea. The whole idea of psychological safety is, in this article and in others we've talked about, being comfortable sharing your opinion. Do you really truly have that freedom to put out a bad idea and not feel like it's your job's in jeopardy if you express yourself? I don't know. I don't know if there's any evidence of that yet, or it's too early to say. But maybe as we get past this COVID situation, get back to our more interaction in the real world, if you'll see differences in people, if this experience has changed them.
Yeah, and it's a great point, and it's like today everyone's at home, everyone's feeling comfortable in their own environment. So then what happens when you then go back to the office environment? Does that change? Do you feel as comfortable, less comfortable, more comfortable? It's going to be an interesting dynamic. It really will. And but maybe because you've got that level of comfort and you've been able to get over barriers to contribute or ask questions, does that then help you in the office environment? It's going to be fascinating to see what happens, Mike.
Yeah. Yeah.
But so let's moving on to the not that one, we just talked about that one. Let's get the next one up. The power of workplace flexibility, and we spoke about this a lot, Mike. Flexibility and the importance of it. But actually, there was two paragraphs at the bottom that I just want to share with people because I think this encapsulates really what are the core benefits of flexible workplace, what are the drawbacks, and I just wanted to share it simply because we strive to find really good concise content, and this is what came across to me. What are the benefits, and what I also find interesting was the last benefit that they mentioned but they put it last, was material savings in real estate. And often we start with that's the outcome that we want because that's what we're striving for. But actually, if we go through all the various attributes and things of the benefits of actually being flexible and having distributed workforces, there are other things that matter. So broader and more diverse talent. So again, keeping that red thread that we've learned so much about creating that diverse and then creating the inclusion. And the other thing I found interesting was the removal of barriers in terms of visas and immigration issues. Because in essence, if you're able to hire remote people in other countries, then you don't have to consider those aspects. Now, I think there's a positive side to that because you can actually get that talent. The drawback is many individuals want to work for the US organizations because they want to come to the US. And eventually,
Right.
perhaps if they build up and they work for the other organization, perhaps it becomes easier to bring those folks to the US. So it's mutually beneficial in the long term for both organization and employee. So I'm just curious as to what you thought about some of this. Was there anything that stuck out to you, Mike?
Yeah, the biggest thing in this article that jumped out to me, Steve, as you mentioned, the last thing mentioned was the savings from real estate, potential reduction in real estate expense. But there's going to be a need in this new situation, new reality, new paradigm, new workplace, is to invest in other things to make up or change or make this remote existence, this flexible existence, workable long term. And again, it's way too early to say. The article was clear. We're in the middle of a pilot program. She kept saying that was, or the author was referring to someone who kept saying this is a big pilot program for remote work. And there's some challenges essentially between all distributed workforce, all in the office, and this hybrid approach, which we all seem to agree is going to be the future, some kind of a hybrid. But it almost now becomes double the need for investment and management and procedures and processes. You've got two sets now you have to manage, the remote worker and the in-office worker. It's kind of like what the schools are going through right now with some, trying to plan for a reopening or a partial reopening where parents and students have the option of continuing to work with distance learning virtually and others are to be there in person. I feel for the teachers. All of a sudden they have to deal with two sets of students and two complete different game plans essentially of how to educate them. And it's a challenge in the workforce as well. So some interesting things going on here. And the thing that jumped out at me is that we will need to replace some costs with others. We have to invest in ways to make things better if we're going to go down this path of distributed remote work. And I think we're just beginning to understand some of that. And new companies will come along with new technologies, I hope, that make things even better than what we have now with the tools available to us. And how it works in each organization is going to be up to the leaders there. And that's what workplace leaders come to our show for. So hopefully we'll have some great ideas along the way.
Yeah, and sort of just again pulling on what you just said there. You talk about the schools and you talk about culturally, right? And then challenges where teachers are going to have with. I imagine they're going to be teaching at the same time. Kids are in the classroom, and kids who are not in the classroom. And that style, you would think, would be very different. One would think, because the other interactions you can have with kids in class, very, very different with how you do that. But then you think culturally, how do the kids in class feel about the kids who are not in class, and vice versa? How do they connect with each other? Do they feel it's great because they can still see each other, because I assume everyone's going to be able to see each other? I don't know what technology they use.
TV monitor,
essence,
or some type of big display.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see how that sort of reacts. And then the kids who are in school, do they think it's a positive or a negative that their pals are at home, or vice versa, right? It's going to be interesting. And then if the kids are home, then what pressure does that put on parents? And just, oh my goodness. But culturally, I think it's going to be a real challenge. The same for the workplace, right? Culture, and the article goes on talking about culture, and how culture is going to shift, and something we have to be really thoughtful about.
Another layer to that challenge of inclusion too, right?
Yeah.
Another difference we have to overcome.
Yep. So something a little bit different, Mike. And I do want to talk about. We did talk about we talked on Thursday, I believe it was, about the salmon, 3D printed salmon. So I did see an article, and I didn't. This is what we're going to talk about. But I did see that a company in Israel has just raised a capital round where they 3D print food, and it is a real thing apparently. So there we go. To add on to that,
I believe it. I don't understand it. So
no, I'm the same.
It's like a mystery. It's like a mystery. I don't know. It's a paradox in a riddle wrapped in an enigma, or whatever that expression is.
Well,
I don't understand.
Mike,
so I see it in front of me.
Yep, I've been told there's very few mysteries in life. There's just puzzles, so we just have to find out what the pieces are and just put it all together. So there we go.
There you go.
So this is drawn on skin electronics wearable monitors. So in essence, if you think about a tattoo being a wearable monitor.
Wow.
So you get a tattoo on your skin. In there, you're able to track your body temperature. You're able to track, your skin hydration. You're able to track all these aspects about yourself. Is your body under stress? Is your body hydrated? Are you lacking something because of this technology that is layered on your skin? So, today we go and we search out. I mean, I have my Aura ring that tracks everything. People have their Apple Watches. People have
Apple
there you
Watch
go.
on.
Right, and how we go through and how we track things. We have a lot of people who put on tattoos. So how would we feel, or how do people feel about actually having a tattoo that is also a sensor that actually allows you to track different things? And you would think, because it's actually attached to your skin, and ink obviously goes down deep into your system, then I just find that very interesting. So what are your initial thoughts?
Initially, I'm like, no way, but I've learned to say never, say never. I've learned to say, I can never say never. And I'm losing my voice already, Steve.
You are. I get just the shock of it,
I don't know. Pardon me. I don't know. Would you put a tattoo on your skin that had technology embedded in it? It's almost like that Brave New World type stuff where you get into microchips under the skin, and I know that technology exists today.
Right.
We do it with dogs, for tracking GPS purposes, find your dog. But when it comes to human beings and privacy and tracking, at least I could take my watch off if I want to. If it's a tattoo.
So you think if you take it off, it doesn't track you? I can't hear you. I can't see you.
I'm sure it still does, but I could actually leave it behind somewhere.
I know. I'm
and
playing.
move on with my life. But if you had a permanent tattoo with all this data,
but then, so
captured,
no, you're right. I mean, there's absolutely that viewpoint, right? And I'll answer your question in a second. I mean, what this is something I would do. But in essence, if you think about someone who is diabetic, who is low in insulin, but they had this on their skin, and they would get detected to sort of allow them to see what their insulin levels in their body is at all time, and also see the reaction that some food or the environment has, and they're able to see that because everything is being done in real time. I can see absolutely people participating and getting involved for that perspective, or be it your heart conditions, blood monitoring, whatever that is. I can absolutely see real things. Now, for me personally, I don't have any tattoos. I don't like putting ink on me, but just because of the environment and what it's going to do to my body, just putting that ink into me just doesn't feel it's the right thing for my body. That said, I could see myself that if it got to the point where this was able to really give me real readouts of all my, my genome, my DNA, the impact that anything I'm eating has on my DNA, all those different things, then I could see myself being interested in something like that. But initially today, as I think about it, with ink and now. But I mean,
Yeah.
this is where it's going to go. This is the future of technology, and we're talking about this in the aspect of this is going to get you into the workplace. But it's just something that this is where technology is shifting, and this may be what we're having 15, 20 years, where you get into the office, it's you get all those biometric features, but then you're also seeing oh, we're having a meeting, my stress levels are increasing, oh, we need to calm down, we need to relax, we need to take a moment, whatever.
Like I say, I never say never, but at the same time, when you get into these areas of personal, your body, and even bring up to reality the idea of, and we can't get into it today, we're out of time, but vaccines and COVID-19. Will workplaces, will restaurants, will public settings require you to have a vaccine? That's going to open up a big controversial situation for our society, and it's going to be one of those situations that really divides us again. But I don't want to leave on a negative note, but we have to be prepared for these things so we can find ways as leaders, as workplace leaders, and as just leaders in our communities, to bring people together as opposed to divide them in these times.
Yeah, and I know we're over, but the key thing here is it has to be mutually beneficial. If it's mutually beneficial, it will be adopted. If people feel they're taken advantage of, then they won't. And that's just sort of with all new technology, that's what's going to happen. So look, Mike, appreciate your time. Thank you for being with us today. It's always so
Thank
good
you.
to chat with you. And
Absolutely.
And yeah, we will chat tomorrow, man. Have a wonderful
Happy
day.
Monday, Steve. Enjoy your time at the beach there. This is the
Oh,
preview.
I'm going to
of
try
what's
to.
coming.
I'm going to try to.
It's your happy place. I love it. See you
Take
soon.
care, mate. Cheers. Thanks. Bye.